What's up everybody, my name's Kevin Toppenberg. Welcome to my channel. I've been working on making a Machinist straight edge, and today we're going to do our second round of machining and we're going to finish, and then next time we'll start with some of the scraping. So I hope you enjoy it. If you look right here, this is all the dirt where my backyard got torn up when I had to have my septic system redone. So I'm not too happy about that, but that's a story for another day. I was squinting because the sun was so bright in my eyes, so rotate around here a bit, give you a little bit better view of my lawn apocalypse. Anyway, if you like it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe and all the usual, and I hope you enjoy it. Well, foolish or not, I decided I would try to see if I could come up with a fly cutter. So I used this boring bar head, or internal boring bar device, and I had previously made a shop-made boring bar for working with an internal Acme thread. So it's got a flat tip there, which is probably 20 thousandths wide, and it's high-speed steel. And I was able to get this trammed in by mounting a indicator here and having the plunger right there and get it the same on both sides. And I've calculated out that I can reach the full length with the travel of the table. So I'm taking off just like a very light pass, and you can see it's got a lot of chatter in it, which would not really be acceptable if that was going to be the final finish. But mostly I'm trying to go through to make sure that it's all flat. Sure enough, it was a bad idea. I went all the way down and then turned around and came back. I installed my power feed just so I could have a consistent run, and as the cutter would come in here, it would hit, it would go up and then down, and it would just oscillate, and it did that consistently, so there are ripples and I can feel that. So I'm gonna come back over it again with that shell mill, the one I had before. Well, I didn't show it because it was the same as I showed before, but I went back and forth and got this all back looking smoother now. I tried putting a indicator right here and measuring down to try to figure out when I transition from one place to the other. It worked the first time over here, and then when I came over here, as I had to lift the plunger to get it, as the ram was swinging, I lift the plunger and then it fell off, so I wasn't able to do that. So, you know, then I tried to give it enough space and to come down until I touched off, you know, and just touching off there left that little groove. And then, you know, after I did this thing and I thought I had it all blended in, and then I was here, and then I just loosened up this just so I could advance it, and just that lifting that off, you know, let this thing come up enough that there's just a little bit of a step there. I think that's the best I can do on this, and let's hope that the scraping will take out the rest. All right, I have now machined this back edge, which I don't know that it really comes into play, but I'm going to use it as a reference surface for when I try to cut an angle in here. Now, when I had to, again, I have to cut it in 3 parts with the ram, 30 degrees that way, 0 degrees, and then 30 degrees this way. The issue is always how to try to get back and start cutting on an even plane. And what I found is just manually lining it up and then manually putting it in while turning the end mill and waiting for it to touch. The problem with that is that this cast iron is so soft that even as I'm just hand doing it, sometimes I can end up scraping. So for example, like you can see right there, I think I was trying to match up, and then I think maybe, no, that one's okay, but right here, I think I did that by hand, just turning it. So And then also, if I'm not super careful when I reach the end of my travel, if I don't turn off the end mill right away and it sits there and spins in one place for an extra second or two, then it goes in farther. So otherwise, it looks pretty good. Looks like a little bit of rippling there. I don't know if I can feel that or not, a little bit. But I think that's as good as I can do here. You know, I'd love for it to be perfect and not to have that. But beggars can't be choosers. I was going to say a little bit also about the setup. I decided that I was just having a hard time getting rigidity here. So I had these extra bits of the square tubing. I attached that to the table with this, and then used a clamp to hold those together, and did the same down there. The other issue is I needed to get this thing so it wasn't this way or that, and had a really hard time, probably took like half an hour, to, going back and forth and trying to adjust it. Because even after I would get it level, then as soon as I would start trying to tighten everything down, especially these parts, it would pull it one way or the other. At the end, you know, but when I got enough so that I was cutting there, you know, it looked like it was maybe 10 or 20 thousandths on this side. But, you know, I've done a micrometer from here versus the other end, and it's, I think, within 4 thousandths on the width. So I think overall it's not too bad. I want to show why I really want to work on these dovetails and see if I can get them better. Because if I have this tight, then it's level. But if I, you know, have that a little bit loose, look what happens when I don't know if you can see it, but see how that side is moving much more than this side. So as I crank in, this thing turns, which when I'm trying to get it all straight is not the best. I can see substantially more movement here than I can. In fact, when I go forward, it almost looks like this thing comes back just because it's torquing on here. And that, again, that's because there's more weight here, and so it's lifted down, so there's more drag, so then this then moves forward. So ideally, I think the gibs need to be tightened up, which will prevent that. But then if I tighten up the gibs, then I don't have the full range of travel, and I get about halfway back, and then I just can't move forward anymore. So that's the problem. So I'm using this hogging type end mill to get that mill scale off the surface. That's one of these end mills that I got for 20 bucks. I scored on this one, lost everything else on the auction, but I did get these. I had to purchase a holder for the bigger ones. These are 1 inch, but then these ones are smaller. I kind of divide them up. These ones here are smaller. All right, I'm all done with the machining. I thought that I would try to use this fly cutter with a carbide insert that I tried sharpening on my diamond saw, my diamond wheel, and do one last run to try to make it all even, and it promptly started digging in and not cutting right and left grooves. And so I took a belt sander and have taken out all of the irregularities. Now I know that that's going to leave ripples in it, but I figured that if I'm going to have to take stuff out through the scraping process, I'd rather there not be lines that you can see. So I will start from there. Still got a couple little ripples where I had to change positions on the front and on the back, and I probably will sand those as well, and then we'll get on to the surface plate. Okay, the next operation I want to do is to put a 45-degree angle on this leading edge. That will let me get this flat surface all the way up underneath into those dovetails. So I'm going to need to get this thing positioned. I have a relatively straight edge here that I'm going to drop down into the first T-slot to kind of keep it from rotating this way. And now I'll have to do something to make this sturdy so it doesn't rotate in this direction. So That's gonna be a whole deal for another day. Well, I said I was gonna do it another day, but decided I would go ahead. I put this block and I adjusted it forwards and backwards until I was able to get this such that a horizontal thing would be a 30-degree cut. I decided to go with 30. I put that down in the slot, which should keep it from going this way. And then I have it blocked against here, same pattern we did before, and then tie down here, here, two on that side, and the slots didn't line up with the T-slots here, so I had to do some hold downs. It seems to be cutting pretty well. Really no chatter. I've been going up to 100 thousandths depth of cut, just kind of taking it slowly and just getting just a little bit of chatter if I go too fast. But otherwise, this is a brand new cutter, and boy, it's razor sharp, and it's taking that soft cast iron very nicely. So it's coming right along. Okay, this is how thick the edge is currently. On this end, it's about that thick. On this end is thinner. So I kind of wish the whole thing was this thin. And that must be because everything's not perfectly in there square. If I take this down thinner to that edge, that means that this one is going to go to nothing, which means I think that this edge will not be straight, but instead will curve inward. And the real point is this thickness, if I'm gonna put it up into here, it needs to be able to go in, I guess even if there's a little bit of a lip. I think I'm gonna sleep on this to decide whether I wanna go any thinner on that. If I had to do it again, maybe 45 would have been a better angle. I think it wouldn't have interacted with this as much, but then again, it also has a nice longer surface that it's 30 degrees. But I think I'm gonna need to lay it flat and come back and take out that angle so that it goes vertical. Otherwise, these things are gonna kind of look funny like that. So, making good progress. Here is my next and hopefully last setup on this thing. And it looks very simple, but I swear I've been working on it for about an hour. A variety of reasons for that. But I found these stops in a bunch of junk that I had from an auction, and they were just all nasty, and so I had to kind of clean them up. But it's got a T-slot there and it's got a flat end, and so I'm able to bring this machine surface up against that. Then of course this doohickey here to give it a little bit of rigidity. I'm only going to be taking off this little bit here and here, if you can see it, because that cut is just kind of an acute angle, so I'm going to try to straighten that out a little bit. I may even have a ball nose end mill. I may see, I don't know if radius. I think I'm just going to try to go vertical on that. Okay. So I'm trying to cut a piece of steel. I wish I had just a horizontal bandsaw, but I don't. This wheel, I don't think that the arbor has any run out, but apparently it's not quite straight on that shaft, because you can hear it cut and then pause. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It gives it a chance for the chips to get cleared out. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut that through. Right now I'm taking about 60,000 depths, 60 thousandths each pass. I don't know, maybe it would do more than that. I'm just kind of taking it slow. Well, I found that I can actually cut 150 thousandths at a time. Doesn't seem to be breaking a sweat. I have it in the reduced back gear mode. Just taking time. Okay, I've taken it and I've deburred it already, just showing how that came loose. All right, on to our next step. Okay, I'm trying to prepare, I'm gonna try to repair this shelf that I took out. In retrospect, I think I probably shouldn't have done that. I mean, I needed it when I was trying to machine from here and I didn't want it wobbling, but I think maybe they could have done it a different way somehow. Anyway, so I slid this whole thing down to here, got the height of that, you know, this is fixed between here and here, and then I slid it forward and did this. So both of these should be the same height now. And I have some pieces cut to here, and I'm gonna try to fill that in. So right now, I'm trying to decide whether I'm gonna drill and tap here first and then make the holes to match it, or to the little pieces, or vice versa. Okay, let me show you my progress. I have made these, cut them with that slitting saw. I then drilled and counterset. I had to do the counterset with just a drill bit, so the bottom is not truly flat in there, but I think it'll be okay. I then put that there and then used hole punch. That was the same hole as that diameter. Marked the location, then I drilled and tapped that one. Then put the bolt in, got that bolted down. Then from there, I was able to locate off of this. I put the drill bit that was the exact same size in there, went in there until it was, not deflecting when it went in the hole. Got that all in there, and then now I have drilled that out, and then I'm gonna tap it. And I'm not setting up the tripod and showing all the progress. I'm just gonna kind of show you in jumps how it's going rather than showing it all blow by blow. Got both of those done. My goal was to get the heads down far enough that I'd be able to shape this a little bit. We'll see how that turns out. Still got to do the other one. I'm gonna do that off camera. All right, I got both of these ends on. I made them purposefully longer and wider than they needed to, then machined it down. So I initially thought that I would try to follow that same curve, but I don't see how I can do it without getting into the heads of those cap heads screws. So I think I'm just gonna try to smooth it off with a sander just to kind of round the edges. Another issue is I thought that I might try to make the distance from here to the top of this constant on this side versus that. But there was just a slight difference in the bevels, so one would be sticking up more than the other. So I just machined each one to the level where it met that curve. So there'll be a little bit of difference. So now I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna try to round those edges a little bit. All right, I'm done machining it. I couldn't help myself. I just went ahead and rounded this. I did get into the cap head screws. I don't know that I'm ever going to want to take that off, and I may actually even put a little Bondo in there to fill up that hole. On this side, I think it curves around pretty good. Again, in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have taken that area out, but I think it went back in pretty well. I also smoothed up the top here. It's not super smooth, but a little smooth. And I think that I'm all done with the machining, so now we'll start working on some scraping. I just noticed that this side is quite a bit smoother than this side. I may hit this again with the belt sander a little bit more. All right. I think the issue is going to be how flat is it really when I put it on a surface plate. As I was clamping it down, I think I might have been putting some little bit of stress in there. That table's not completely flat. So I'm expecting I'm gonna have, you know, a fair amount of irregularity, but what's nice about this cast iron is it's super soft. I think it's gonna be easy to scrape in. We'll see. Okay, everybody, hope you enjoyed that. Look here, little baby pears. They're coming. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, please come back for next time. We're gonna start with the scraping process, and you know how I love scraping. Actually, I think it's not gonna be too much longer. Maybe one video for the scraping and then maybe one for painting, but it's not gonna be too long a project. Anyway, if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and come back for the next one. Thanks, bye.
Peace out.